This is a fictional mindbender. So the inspiration for this video came after the 24-hour ban on TikTok, which everyone was flipping out over, and in some cases arguably for good reason, but that's for another video, or you could also look it up as well. But that being said, in 1992, the movie A Few Good Men blessed audiences with one of the greatest court verbal battles, one of the best delivered and most memorable lines in cinema, and one of the first memes before memes were even a thing into American culture. And of course, I'm speaking of the scene where Navy JAG lawyer Lieutenant Kaffe has his final confrontation in court with the Marine Colonel Jessup, a man he believes to be responsible for ordering a quote-unquote code red, an under-the-table and sanctioned beatdown of a recruit that resulted unintentionally in his death.
Lieutenant Kendrick ordered the code red, didn't he? Because that's what you told Lieutenant Kendrick to do.
Object! And when it went bad, you cut these guys loose! Your Honor, you had Marcus inside a phony transport. Your Honor, you doctored the logbook. Damn it, Captain! You coerced the doctor.
Consider yourself in contempt.
Colonel Jessup, did you order the code red?
You don't have to answer that question.
I'll answer the question. You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth! Son, we live in a world that has walls, and those walls have to be guarded by men with guns. Who's gonna do it? You? You, Lieutenant Weinberg? I have a greater responsibility than you can possibly fathom. You weep for Santiago and you curse the Marines. You have that luxury. You have the luxury of not knowing what I know, that Santiago's death, while tragic, probably saved lives, and my existence, while grotesque and incomprehensible to you, saves lives. You don't want the truth because deep down in places you don't talk about at parties, you want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. We use words like honor, code, loyalty. We use these words as the backbone of a life spent defending something. You use them as a punchline. I have neither the time nor the inclination to explain myself to a man who rises and sleeps under the blanket of the very freedom that I provide, and then questions the manner in which I provide it. I would rather you just said thank you and went on your way. Otherwise, I suggest you pick up a weapon and stand a post. Either way, I don't give a damn what you think you are entitled to.
What makes the scene so great to me is that it's one of those rare moments where something coincidentally just happens to transcend generations against any initial intentions or against all odds. Because Jessup's rant about Kaffe's generation being lazy and self-indulgent and self-righteous, while also ignoring the bedrock of the sacrifices made by their elders, was indirectly a call-out to the young Gen X by boomers. At the time, Gen X was seen as the head of a new wave of cultural revolutionaries, not only reintroducing ideas from, ironically, their elders that were involved in the 1960s counterculture movement, but also superseding it with new ideas regarding a deeper criticism of the country's history, a more thorough and authentic racial integration, and challenging the ongoing but at the time still buried issues of racial disparity, violence against homosexuals, and confronting the viral pandemic of their time, AIDS, which boomers seem to be ignoring. If a lot of this sounds familiar, then it should. Because the core themes behind these conflicts still continue with how boomers see millennials and zoomers and the upcoming Gen Alpha. Basically, that Jessup's line about using words and phrases for something that initially had deeper meaning that has now become a quote-unquote punchline absolutely can be applied to how many older generations see their up-and-coming descendants, using terms like racist, homophobic, Nazi, and now, yes, even the term genocide. Words that 30 to 20 years ago carried serious weight and consequences whenever they were used to call somebody out, that not even boomers dared to use lightly, even against younger people that they disliked or disagree with. However, now it seems to be being used as casual labels to throw onto someone who just seems to be on the opposite side of a political faction, seems too old trying to tell you something, or someone who's just not relevant anymore. Essentially, it's just a label being used so you don't have to listen to people and just write them off, rather than the serious consequences that they initially implied. And on the flip side of that, Kaffe represented Gen X's struggle to be seen and recognized as the equal to their predecessors and not their lessers. Kaffe and his lawyers are frequently gaslit by Jessup and the Marines involved in a Code Red conspiracy to know their place, both as fake military civilians and as up-and-coming, younger, inexperienced people who are trying to look like they have more weight than they actually do. Having finally reclaimed that confidence by the end of the movie, Kaffe uses both the old and new ways to not only trick Jessup into angrily confessing that he did order the Code Red, but also reminding him that he is a military officer and will not tolerate being talked down to, and then follows that up by directly disrespecting him publicly, calling him a son of a bitch to his face. In this light, Kaffe can also represent millennials and alphas, trying to stand up for themselves against boomers, and yes, even some Gen Xers that are calling them being lazy and narcissistic and just too busy to be distracted from the latest TikTok video. These people have taken full advantage of Gen X's creations of the internet to become arguably the most educated, self-motivated, and self-aware generation than others before them, even Gen X. And while yes, there are many who do match those stereotypes to a T, there are also many others who don't. Nor is it really that different from any other generation that's come up beforehand. Now, for myself, I don't go by generational labels because I see it as a behind-the-scenes scam that has been ongoing since the 1950s to make any younger people believe that they're so different and hip or whatever that they have to buy things to prove it. Whether that's a motorcycle, black leather jackets, Walkmans, or yes, even the latest iPhone or TikTok app that is being used to divide us more than we already are. Are there boomers who don't like Zoomers like Colonel Jessup? Yes, because I've met them and I've had to work with them. They absolutely 100% exist. Are there millennials and alphas who are self-righteous and so into their own lives that they can give less fucks about anything beyond how they feel or what they want or their own lives, while at the same time still claiming to be on the right side of history, also like Jessup says? Yes, because I've talked with them as well, and I associated with them. However, I also know millennials and alphas like Kaffe who, despite all their flaws that they or their generation may or may not have, still do want the truth. That they're not out to throw shit at their elders, but want to be seen and respected by them as human beings and try not to wreck their futures while they try to make it and be successful, as many of their elders say that they want them to be. I've seen boomers who acknowledge that while some of their values are from decades ago, still respect and learn from their juniors. They don't gaslight them into towing the line, even if they might disagree with them on some point or another. And I think most people are in these two nuanced frames. But that is why I think this scene from A Few Good Men, around 30 years ago, is so transcendent to me, and I feel lessons can be learned from today. If you think differently, or the same, or just have a different take altogether, let me know in the comments below. But this is Fictional Mindbender, and have a good day.